Hey, what's up, everyone, and welcome back to Cinematic Reviews presented by Quantum Podcasts. As always, I will be your host, Chris, and this is a show about all things movies and TV. Today, we're going to be talking about Michael, one of this year's most anticipated new releases. This is the most recent biopic on the king of pop himself, Michael Jackson. He is played by his nephew, Jaafar Jackson, and I've been super excited to talk about this film since last year. I think is when the first trailer came out. So we're finally here talking about Michael. Super awesome film. Can't wait to get into it. Before we get into that, though, we'll talk about some news and reactions. We have a reaction today on another 2026 movie that I finally watched this past weekend. And then we have a little bit of news actually related to the Michael Jackson film. So we'll touch into that a little bit as well. A couple of reminders at the top of the episode. You can watch the show every week at youtube.com/the Cinematic Reviews. You can also listen to the audio version on your favorite podcast network. We are around the world, so wherever you listen to podcasts, you can find the show. Also, follow us on social media at X, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Post all the graphics from every episode, shorts, posters, news updates, all things movie and TV related get posted on there, so check that out. And then also check out the official website of the show, cinematic-reviews.com, where you can set up a profile and rate the movies like I do on the show with the awesome popcorn rating. You can also play some trivia games to test your knowledge on movies and TV, as well as watch all the episodes as well on there, including the shorts. The shorts are now on there too, so multiple places to watch the show and follow me as I review all these movies for you guys. So with that, let's head over to today's news and reactions. So we got news that a Michael sequel is already greenlit and already in the works as well. Looks like we could possibly get some filming started either this year or next year. So Michael 2 is happening. You know, the biggest thing that critics reacted to the most, and some fans, of course, was the fact that none of the trial stuff was included in the Michael movie. It stopped at the 1988 World Tour, and that was the end of the movie. So that kind of left the door open for a sequel to happen, to continue the story of Michael and his journey through the 90s, early 2000s. So that's probably where we're going to get it, is in Michael 2. Of course, the trial stuff was originally set to be in this film, and I'll touch on this more in the actual review later on in the episode today. But there are some legal ramifications that caused the studio and the filmmakers to redo the entire third act of this film because of, you know, non-disclosure agreements and settlements and things like that. So they had to pivot and end the story in 1988. So that explains why a lot of the 90s, all of the 90s and the early 2000s stuff was cut out. But it did leave the door open, like I said, for a sequel and could play benefit to it. You know, Michael Jackson was such an icon that it's tough to tell his story in just 2.5 hours. You know, you need multiple films or documentary style filmmaking to cover his entire life and career as the king of pop, as he was most oftenly called when he was alive. But so I think it has the benefit of telling his story in multiple installments. So I'm all for a Michael 2. I'm very excited. After watching the first Michael movie, I'm like, I want more. You guys did such a great job, especially Jaafar, who we'll talk about a lot in today's review episode. His portrayal of his uncle was spot on. You know, there were scenes in there where you absolutely, if you didn't know any better, you would have thought that was actually Michael Jackson. So bravo to him. Bravo to the filmmakers, Antoine Fuqua, for doing a fantastic job of telling the Michael Jackson story in this setting. So we are getting a Michael sequel, most likely going to be probably starting filming maybe later this year, early next year, which means we're probably looking at a 2028 possible premiere of the sequel. So TBD on that, but very promising news, especially with the box office numbers. The box office has been going crazy for this movie. Obviously, critics have been just dunking on this relentless, and I'll talk about that too when we get to the box office numbers. But Michael is a fantastic movie, and it's a great portrayal of his life and career. So bravo to them, and we'll be looking forward to Michael 2, of course. Today's reaction on today's episode is Greenland 2 Migration. Of course, the sequel to 2020's Greenland, starring Gerard Butler, Morena Baccarin, back as Allison and John Garrity. If you recall, Greenland, that was about the global event that was causing everybody to freak out and go underground to avoid, I think it was like meteors or some kind of, I think it was like meteors or something, if I remember right. Let me look. I haven't seen Greenland since it probably came out, but we're going to look it up here because I don't want to tell you guys wrong. Greenland. Let's look up the synopsis here. From a catastrophic ends of times, a man rebarks salvation. So it's pretty much meteors, I think, if I remember right. And this one's kind of like the aftermath of that. It's called migration because they're going from one place to another to find a permanent home. And it's a sequel that nobody wanted, nobody asked for, but we got it anyways. Not a great movie. It's pretty bad, actually. I'm pretty disappointed in this, especially Gerard Butler, who I'm a huge fan of. I love Morena Baccarin. She's great as well. Probably most known for her role in Gotham and Deadpool's girlfriend in the Deadpool movies. Gerard Butler is Gerard Butler. He is fantastic. But this, pretty disappointing. I didn't have a whole lot of expectations for this movie going into it, though, but it's pretty bad. It's one of the worst movies of the year and probably one of the worst movies in the last 5 or 6 years. So pretty disappointed. You can watch this I think I watched this on HBO, but you can also find it on Prime, Hulu, Disney Plus, and things like that. But I did end up watching it on HBO Max through my subscription, so thank God. I'm probably not going to buy this unless it's like $5 on Fandango at home or iTunes. But yeah, it's pretty bad. I gave it 1 popcorn, which I don't hand out very often. But it's well deserving. It's a really, really bad movie and just not entertaining. I threw this on and I ended up being bored within the first 10 minutes and doing other stuff around my house and having this in the background pretty much. So, pretty bad. But if you are curious, if you're a Gerard Butler fan, if you like the first Greenland movie, go ahead and check this out. That's the only reason why I watched it, just out of curiosity. And it's a pretty bad movie. So, but check it out today. Greenland 2 Migration on HBO Max. So let's take a quick break and then we'll get into our review of Michael. This episode is brought to you by Dubby Energy. Still drinking energy that quits before you do? Stop crashing, stop shaking, and start performing. Meet Dubby Energy, clean energy made for gamers, creators, and anyone who refuses to slow down. With 0 sugar, no jitters, and no crash, Dubby keeps you locked in whether you're grinding ranked, streaming for hours, or pushing through those late nights. There's no crash, no fade, just gas. Drink different, perform better. Grab Dubby Energy and use code Cinematic10 to get 10% off your order today.
I know you've been waiting a long time for this. The tracks are made, the songs are ready.
Q, can you lower the lights for me, please?
Okay, but remember, in here, keep those feet still, my man.
So Michael came out on April 24th, 2026. The current box office right now looks like it's slightly over $581 million, which is quite a massive haul for only being in theaters for a few weeks. It had a budget of about $155 million, so it's a really good profit day. Most of the profits in the box office came from US and Canada. But worldwide, it is slightly over $581 million. Looks like $241 million of that came from the US and Canada. So quite a haul here at the box office so far for Michael. Looking at a brief synopsis, if you're not familiar about the story of Michael Jackson, the early life of musician Michael Jackson, from the discovery of his talent as the lead of the Jackson 5 to the artist whose creative ambition fueled a pursuit to become the biggest entertainer in the world, which he did. He is not named the King of Pop for nothing. So yes, he did start off as a child in Jackson 5 along with his other brothers, but then he ended up wanting to kind of go his own route. He wanted to, reinvent the dance and reinvent entertainment as a artist, and he just skyrocketed through the roof on his own. Not that his family was holding him back. The Jackson 5 were really popular back in the day. Of course, that's before my time. I'm just going off of the research and what I've been told by others. But Michael was just something special, and he just wanted to be given the freedom to just kind of be his own man, be his own artist, and just kind of create what he wanted to create, bring what was in his head to the world. But his father, Joseph Jackson, really wanted to control him and hold him back and basically profit off of his own kids. That's why he was so determined to keep the Jackson 5 going on and not allowing Michael to do his solo act as a artist. So, and that's probably the main plot line of this movie and of his life, honestly, and his career, was the fact that Joseph Jackson was holding him back, was trying to control him to basically profit off of his own kids so that he didn't have to work, pretty much. So we'll talk about Joseph Jackson quite a bit here coming up. I have a whole section ready to just rip him a new one. But yes, I love Michael. It's been one of my most anticipated films of the year. It's absolutely fantastic. I love it. So fuck whatever the critics say. They just don't understand what's going on. To give you kind of a perspective on what I mean and fuck the critics, I don't normally go off of tomato score because I don't give a shit about the tomato score, tomato meter, Rotten Tomatoes, whatever you want to call it. But just to show you how ridiculous and frankly rigged the system is with the critics and with these other, review sites such as Rotten Tomatoes, where you can basically just bomb the shit out of it with bad reviews, even though the movie itself was really good. Just to give you kind of a perspective here, the audience meter was like 96, 97%, whereas the critics was like 39 to 40%. So it's such a huge unbalance of what's going on with, and not just Michael. This is just one of the many examples I like to bring up of how critics see movies differently than just general audience goers. Critics are looking for, honestly, I don't know what critics are looking for, because their reviews make no sense. Whereas if you just go and ask a general moviegoer, they're going to tell you that Michael is a fantastic portrayal of his life and a fantastic film in general. Like, that's me. I'm an average moviegoer. Yes, I review movies, and some people may call me a movie critic in a way, but I see myself as just a general moviegoer with a podcast channel that just wants to speak freely on how I look at a movie and what I think a movie is. Now, I know everyone's entitled to their opinion, but in this obvious example, the critics' opinions are stupid. Their biggest gripe with this movie was the fact that the trial stuff wasn't included. That's the only reason that I've been seeing with some of these reviews I've read from the critics, was the fact that they got his story wrong because they didn't put the trial stuff in there. Well, if the critics would understand that because of legal ramifications, they weren't allowed to put the trial stuff in there. Now, maybe with part 2 coming out, maybe there's some legal loophole or some wiggle room that they can do to kind of mention or just briefly touch on that part of his life. But the fact that they are review bombing the shit out of this movie simply because they didn't include accusations is what they were. Now, if you remember, he wasn't found guilty on any of this stuff. This was all accusations. This was all settled outside of court. This was all, I don't want to say rumors, but this is essentially what it was. There was no actual guilty verdict on him for the abuse charges and allegations and things like that. Now, did he actually do it? I don't know. And I don't think anybody will ever truly know if that was true or not. But the fact that the critics are review bombing the hell out of this movie simply because they didn't include the controversial stuff in here, it just makes no sense, and it's unfair to the people that put a lot of work into this movie, and it's very disrespectful to Jaafar and his uncle Michael for bringing the story to life. So just, that's what I'm going to leave on this rant is fuck the critics. They don't know what they're talking about. And if you ask any average moviegoer, 9 times out of 10, they're going to say they absolutely love this movie. And I did as well. It's a fantastic movie. Jaafar did a really great job at portraying his uncle. Like I said, there were parts of this movie where if you didn't know any better, you would have thought that was Michael being brought back to life on screen, because it literally was. He was brought back to life on this screen. It was truly an amazing job by everybody involved with this movie. It was fantastic. So speaking of everybody involved with this movie, let's kind of briefly run through the cast. It's a pretty short cast. You know, the main focus is Michael, of course. So Jaafar Jackson plays the older version of Michael. We have Giuliano Valdi. I'm terrible with names. I'm sorry, guys. So I'm sorry, Valdi, who played the younger Michael during the Jackson 5 days. They both did a fantastic job. But the person that deserves the spotlight the most is Jaafar Jackson, Michael's nephew. Now, Michael actually died a month before Jaafar's 13th birthday. Michael died on June 25th, 2009. And I remember that day. I think I was just about to start my sophomore year in high school, I believe it was. And when this news broke, the entire world was just silent. And I remember, you know, the televised prayer mass and funeral processions and things like that. It was such a global event that when he passed, the whole world went silent. And regardless of if you believed in the allegations or not, everybody was saddened by the loss of Michael Jackson, and his death still seems to be kind of a mystery on what exactly happened in his final days. But it's truly sucks that he is gone. You know, I like to imagine with a lot of these icons like Michael Jackson, like Heath Ledger, like Chris Farley, like what would they be doing now? You know, what kind of things would they have done in the last 10 years? It's just really interesting to think of what would Michael Jackson be doing today if he didn't pass away, if he was healthy and still performing and doing his philanthropy work and all that. Like, what kind of icon would he become even more today if he was still alive? And I think this movie is going to be a really good reminder of what everybody loved about Michael, you know, not just the music, but the entertainment side of him, the care and love that he had, you know, and what he did to not only change the music business, but evolve the entertainment business with his dance, with his music, his lyrics, his attitude, you know, his creativity, bringing it to life. It sucks that he's gone, but I think, like I said, this is a really good way of paying tribute to him and a way for Jaafar to kind of honor his uncle. Truly fantastic job by Jaafar. I hope he gets the opportunity to spread his wings even more with the sequel. But I also, if he wants to become an actor like full time, I think he would be a really fantastic addition to a lot of different movies. You know, this was his first acting gig. And he said, I remember watching, I think it was the Jimmy Kimmel interview, where he explained that just the audition part was like a 2-year process of him learning to dance and proving that he can portray his uncle the best. He ended up winning the audition, of course, because he's in the movie as Michael Jackson. But I really like listening to him talk about his experience getting ready for this role. You know, the 2-year audition, the going to the actual spots where Michael filmed certain music videos, or wearing replicas or even actual clothing that his uncle would wear. It was really fantastic, and it's really awesome. So check out those interviews if you haven't. He does a really good one on Jimmy Kimmel that I really like. So go ahead and check out Jaafar as he talks about his experience and all that. But congrats to him. He did a fantastic job with this movie. Joseph Jackson, played by Coleman Domingo. What a piece of shit Joseph is. But Coleman Domingo does a great job at portraying Joseph. He just wants to take advantage of his boys as much as possible. Yeah, he preaches about family is number one. Family is number one. But in that scene, when he comes home from work, you can tell that he is just fucking miserable at the factory or wherever the hell he works at the time. And he pushes his boys. You would initially think that he would push his boys to be successful because he wants to see them successful. But when you look at it deeper and deeper, and the actions and the things that he says, it starts to paint a different picture, where Joseph pushed his sons to be successful so that he didn't have to work, so that he can profit off of his family name and not have to really do anything but manage his sons. When his sons are doing all the work, you know, they're dancing, they're performing on stage, they're exhausted. They have their own lives they're trying to live. And that's when Michael finally figures out, like, hey, I want to do my own thing. I have all these ideas that only I can give to the world, that not Jackson 5 can do. And he doesn't want to be held back anymore by Joseph, so he essentially fires him, pretty much. And it was for the betterment, because you can tell that Joseph was a abusive father, and I'm sure it messed up Michael psychologically. You know, that could have had ramifications in the future with some of the choices that he made as an adult. But Coleman Domingo, as much of a piece of shit Joseph is, Coleman Domingo did a fantastic job at portraying him, and he deserves every recognition and every applause for portraying Joseph in the way that was more than likely what I've been reading in the research was how Joseph is, or was. So it kind of sucks when you're like praised for being a piece of shit on screen. But Coleman is such a great actor that he just embodied Joseph Jackson. It was really, really, really well done. Catherine Jackson, Michael's mother, played by Nia Long, fantastic. You know, she kind of gets kicked to the curb for a lot of movie because Joseph overshadows her with his performance. But Nia was fantastic as Catherine too. I love everybody in this movie. Now I know a lot of people are like, "Where's Janet Jackson?" My mom even said, "Hey, why didn't they have Janet Jackson in here?" They ultimately decided not to do that, and I was reading on the research before going on the mic today, and a lot of people worried that if they don't put Janet Jackson in the sequel, there will be an uproar. And I've been trying to find like a more legitimate reason on why they left her out, and the best one that I can find was that she was asked to be portrayed in there, but she actually declined, so they had to basically respect her wishes for not being in there. So they kept her out altogether. And another reason why I felt was they didn't want to overpower Michael's story with including Janet Jackson, Randy Jackson, and Rebby Jackson. They left them out. But it looks like they actually asked Janet to be in it, and she's the one that said no. And it seems like they wanted to pay more respect. She wanted to pay more respect to Michael, instead of potentially overpowering or overshadowing him in his own movie. So she actually is the one that declined to appear in it. Maybe she'll decide to appear in the sequel. I guess we'll find out. But that's like other than the trial stuff, that was one of the other big negatives that people had towards the movie, was that Janet Jackson was not portrayed in it at all. Turns out she actually wanted it that way. Moving on, Billy Bray. I think that was. Let me make sure that's correct. I have a feeling that is. Billy is the bodyguard, so to speak, of Michael. Yep, Bill Bray. Fantastic. You know, he was kind of the mentor, father-ish figure to Michael growing up through his career. Supported him, protected him. You know, I love that scene in the Toys R Us where they're standing in line. Michael's buying all these toys for the kids in the hospital, and this little girl comes up behind him, and it was a little girl, and she was like, "Oh, are you Michael Jackson?" He goes, "Yeah," and he's like, "Do you want me to sign your toy?" And the look on Bill's face was like, "Wow, Michael has become this icon, has become bigger than what he ever would have been with the Jackson 5 or under his father." You know, it was kind of like a proud dad moment from his bodyguard Bill. And I really liked the character, very supportive of Michael, was looking out for him like a father figure, and kind of in a way took Joseph's spot in protecting him, which was really cool. And then John Bronca, I believe that's how you say it. Again, I'm terrible with names. Played by Miles Teller, who I've said on this pod numerous times, I love Miles Teller. He's not in it a whole lot, but he ends up playing the manager or the guy that manages Michael as he explodes and becomes fully on his own. And he's the one that initiates the firing of Joseph from Michael's team as his manager. Miles Teller, great. He's great in anything that he does. I absolutely love Miles. Fantastic. We touched on Jaafar a lot, as his uncle Michael. He did a fantastic job. I absolutely loved him. Joseph, what a piece of shit father. It's in the research that I've been doing for the pod, a lot of it was actually portrayed truthfully. You know, it was a lot of mental abuse, physical abuse, because you get that scene where he's whipping Michael with the belt, and they actually showed it. Which I was kind of surprised that they actually showed him whipping the shit out of Michael, little tiny Michael, when he was with the Jackson 5 with the belt. But yeah, a lot of it was mental abuse, you know, thinking that because Michael not that he didn't want to perform with his brother, it was that he wanted to do his own thing. He wanted to do a solo act. He had all these ideas, and Joseph just pounded into his brain that if you do this, you are hurting the family. You are letting the family down. You are not a part of this family anymore. And it was Joseph freaking out because he was losing control over Michael, that he wasn't, and he knew that Michael would be way more successful if he was by himself, because he realized Michael's talent. And like I said a little bit earlier, you would think at first sight that you're like, oh, Joseph's pushing his boys to be successful because he wants them to be successful, because they're all talented and he wants them to succeed. No, Joseph wanted to push his boys to the breaking point so that he could profit off of it, so that he didn't have to go work in a goddamn mill or whatever the hell that he was working. You know, it was a really shit way to support your kids. And Michael had every right to fire him as his manager, because he did not have his best interests at heart. He did not support him. He was just a controlling piece of shit. So that is my rant, part 2 of Joseph Jackson. All right, let's get to the categories today. Since this is a new release, potential iconic scenes. So, of course, as a reminder, iconic scenes is where the scenes that you think of when you hear the title Michael. Now, this is the new release, so in the future, what is going to be labeled as a iconic scene? So I got some nominees here, and I'll give you my iconic scene. First up, we have the Jackson 5 ABC TV performance. Fantastic. I've seen the actual footage of that commercial, that TV performance. Spot on. Fantastic. Great performance. Michael dances for the Bloods and Crips when he kind of discovers his iconic, leg flip or whatever it is. I'm not going to do it now because I'm sitting down and nobody wants to see that. But that scene when he comes in and his way of trying to break the tension between the Bloods and Crips with dance and music was so fantastic. And that music video that he does for it was incredible. And this was a great recreation of that moment in time. It was such a great scene. Thriller music video. This is the trailer highlighted this as the big set piece. They actually filmed it on location where Michael originally filmed the Thriller. They did it shot for shot, move by move. It was like a true recreation of the Thriller music video, and it was fantastic. It was so well done, so well performed. Jaafar looked exactly like Michael in that music video. It's just uncanny on how close and if anyone didn't know any better, it was like, did you just adjust the coloring on this? Because it looks exactly the same. They did a great job at recreating probably Michael's most iconic music video ever put out there. It's my favorite song by Michael. It's my favorite music video by Michael. So I'm a little biased, but I would have to imagine that is probably labeled the most iconic music video of his career, and they did a phenomenal job at recreating it. The Billie Jean performance where he debuts his moonwalk. Again, shot by shot perfection on that moment in time when he performs Billie Jean and shows the moonwalk. Jaafar nailed that shit, just to a T. Fantastic. And then the bad performance in London where the movie ends on his 1988 tour when he performs Bad in London. Again, shot for shot, that concert, fantastic. This is tough, but I think for me, the most iconic scene in Michael is that Thriller music video. That's just perfection if I've ever seen it. It's just so good. And Jaafar, just a round of applause for him for just doing Michael the honor and the respect of recreating that video. It was so well done. But feel free to drop in the comments below what you think is the most iconic scene in Michael. Very curious to see what you guys say. Favorite quotes. Not too many here. A lot of the movie is just based around the music and the dancing and recreating his career. So not a whole lot of iconic quotes coming out of this movie, but there's quite a few. All of them, except for one by Michael. One is actually from Quincy. But I'll rip through the Michael ones here, and then we'll get to the Quincy one here. So I believe music can change the world, spread love, joy, and peace. That is what I want the world to feel. Magic. Really good scene. Michael talking to himself in the mirror. You're confident, you're strong, you're beautiful, you're the greatest of all time. And arguably he was. Here is your first job. I need you to fire Joseph. At that moment, I was like, fuck yes, Michael. Free yourself from this piece of shit and go live your life. And then the last one here from Michael, I have to shine my light, as his mother tells him to do. And he did. He shined his light all over the world. And then this one from Quincy Jones. But remember in here, keep those feet still, my man. He was the recording studio guy in the trailer on today's episode. Great line from the trailer. All right, here's some fun facts here to kind of wrap things up, and then we'll get into the ranking segment to end everything. Michael Jackson's eldest sibling, Rebby Jackson, youngest sibling, Janet Jackson, and youngest brother, Randy Jackson, are not shown in the film per their own request. So again, this is solely on theirs. They did not want to overshadow Michael. From what I've been reading, they wanted to let the spotlight go there. Maybe they will join the sequel. We will see. The film's final act initially focused on how the 1993 child abuse allegations impacted Michael Jackson's life. Lionsgate scrapped that ending after attorneys for Jackson's estate pointed to a settlement clause with accuser Jordan Chandler that barred his depiction in the film. The movie was delayed, and Jackson's estate covered the $15 million spent on the reshoots because it is actually in a legal binding document that they cannot portray Jordan Chandler. So they just kind of have their hands tied there. But it is nice that the Jackson estate paid for the reshoots in order to abide by the settlement clause. Lady Gaga owns some pieces of Michael Jackson's wardrobe. She let the production use them for free if they let her attend the shooting on whatever days that she wanted. So that's pretty cool that she actually owns Michael Jackson's wardrobe. That's pretty cool. The recreation of Michael Jackson's Thriller was filmed on Union Pacific Avenue in LA, the same street where Michael Jackson performed his iconic dance in 1983, of course. So like I said, they filmed that music video on location. And in that Jimmy Kimmel interview that I talked about early on in the episode, he actually was present there when Michael filmed that, I guess, is what Jaafar was saying. Like, he remembers being there on set while they were creating the Thriller. So that was pretty cool. The song Michael Jackson hums to himself as he walks up the stairs towards his bedroom is Smile by Charles Chaplin, his favorite song of all time. He later recorded this song for his History album. Jermaine Jackson performed it at Michael's memorial service in 2009. I remember when Jermaine performed that. It was a very, very lovely song and performance. The two films Michael Jackson watches as inspiration for Michael Jackson's Thriller are The Fly and the House of Wax films. Both star Vincent Price, who would perform the rap for the album's title track. A Toys R Us store was rebuilt for the film. Michael Jackson was known for going on massive shopping sprees there. The chain declared bankruptcy in September 2017 and shut down in June 2018, which is a huge bummer because I grew up going into Toys R Us stores. It was truly depressing when that one closed. But, you know, all things have to come to an end. And then lastly, Jaafar Jackson has said that when he rehearsed for dance scenes, his feet would either bleed or go numb. But if you ask me, that is dedication, my people. Dedication. So yeah, I absolutely loved Michael. It's a fantastic portrayal of Michael Jackson's life, his career, what he gave to the world through his music and his dance. Jaafar did a fantastic job at portraying his uncle, paying him the respect that he deserves, and I'm very excited for a sequel. It's going to be controversial, but I'm excited to see more Jaafar as portraying his uncle because he just did a fantastic job. I absolutely love this movie. Can't wait to own it and watch it over and over again. So let's head over to the rankings to wrap everything up today. So today it's a little bit of a short ranking segment today. I'm going to give you my top 5 music biopics, and then we'll give to the popcorn rating, but you could probably guess of what mine is. Okay, so at number 5, I got Bohemian Rhapsody, the Queen biopic. Fantastic movie. I love Rami Malek as Freddie from Queen, Freddie Mercury from Queen. They did such a great job with this. It took me a while for this movie to grow on me. I wasn't like a huge Queen fan growing up, but I just watched this preparing for the podcast today, and I gotta hand it to it. Rami Malek did a phenomenal job as Freddie Mercury. They look so much like him. The mannerisms, the singing, the big teeth, and the big mouth. It was all perfect. The haircut, the clothing. They did such a good job at bringing the Queen story to life on screen, and I love Bohemian Rhapsody now. It's such a fantastic movie. So that comes in at number 5. Number 4, we're gonna get weird. We got Weird, the Yal Yankovic story. Now, I know this is not a good movie. It is a very exaggerated version of Weird Al's career. I mean, Weird Al basically came up with this idea. But I don't love it because it's good. Like, I know it's not a good movie. I love it because it's so wacky, it's so weird, it's so Al Yankovic, and I have so much fun watching it because it's so ridiculous. Daniel Radcliffe does a fantastic job at portraying Al Yankovic, and he brings his own weirdness to it, but and he looked so much like Al when he was younger. It's so good. I enjoy the shit out of it. I know it's bad. There's a reason why it didn't like get released in theaters and stuff like that. I think this is like a Roku movie technically. But I enjoy the shit out of it. It's entertaining. So that comes in at number 4. Number 3. Now this is a little weird in a different way. So 8 Mile. If you guys have never seen this, Eminem plays Rabbit in here. The reason I put 8 Mile in here is because, and I made sure I researched this correctly so I didn't get this wrong, but the 8 Mile movie is so close to Eminem's like actual story of how he became the most famous rapper ever, or became God in his own words, is why a lot of people label 8 Mile as a Eminem biopic. So that's why it's in here, because it is so close to Eminem, and Eminem stars in it, that I consider it the Eminem biopic. So that's why it's in this list, and I love 8 Mile. It's such an incredible movie. Brittany Murphy does a fantastic job as his love interest in there. But Eminem himself is awesome. He's so good in it, and if he wouldn't have became the world's famous rapper, I think he would have had a solid career in acting. But I really like 8 Mile, so that's why it comes in at number 3. It's a little, it's kind of an oddball one, but it's in my top 5. Number 2, Elvis. This is the Austin Butler portrayal of Elvis from, I think it was 2023. This one came out. If you guys don't know this, famously, Austin Butler got the voice so right that he couldn't get rid of it right away. Like he even in interviews and post press releases and things like that, he was still doing the Elvis voice because he physically couldn't stop doing it because he had done it for so long. Now finally he's gotten rid of it, of course, but it took him a long time to break the Elvis voice away from him. But he was so good as Elvis. The clothing, the dancing, the mannerisms, the voice, the singing, the hair. He was fantastic as Elvis. And I really like the Elvis movie. Aside from the Tom Hanks part, you can cut Tom Hanks out. Now, I know he's a huge, important part of it. But the fact that they had the Colonel narrate it and tried to convince the audience that Elvis was the bad guy probably wasn't the best way to go about it. I would have did it closer to the way they did Michael, where it's just Elvis is the guy. But the fact that they had Tom Hanks narrating this movie is what really holds it back for me from being like a golden popcorn movie. But Elvis, fantastic movie nonetheless. Austin Butler did a fantastic job as Elvis. So that is at number 2. Number 1, it's Michael. I love Michael. Jaafar Jackson, like I've said over and over again on the episode today, phenomenal job portraying his uncle Michael Jackson. This movie is fantastic. I can't wait to own it. So number 1, popcorn rating. Now I couldn't quite get it to golden popcorn. Just something was holding me back from giving it the golden popcorn, but I'm giving it 5 popcorns. I think that is really good. I just couldn't quite get it to the golden popcorn for me, but this is as close as it's going to get to that line getting crossed to go from 5 to golden. But this is like a really bright and strong 5 popcorns movie. It's just fantastic. I absolutely love it. Can't wait to watch it again. Can't wait to own it and rewatch it over and over again. After watching this movie, I had Michael Jackson's albums on repeat in my car. I went home and I watched the original Thriller video and all the other music videos that he did. It's just, this movie had an effect on me. Like, it was a fantastic experience. I took my mom to it. She's a huge Michael Jackson fan. She's been waiting for this movie for a year like I have, and it was a great experience for us. We had a blast watching it. It was so well done. I absolutely love this movie. Definitely in consideration for movie of the year, and definitely in consideration for top 5 movie of 2026 when we get to the cinematic awards later on. So awesome film. Check out Michael. It's going to be in theaters for a little bit. I think eventually, what is it, Lionsgate? This will probably end up on like Netflix or HBO or Peacock or somewhere. A streaming service is going to pick it up, but I'm going to buy it when it comes out because I need this in my movie collection. It's a fantastic movie. So go check out Michael, support the film. Let's get that box office number up there. Maybe it can hit $1 billion. We'll see. It's only been a few weeks since it's been out. So yeah, it's a bravo to Jaafar, bravo to Antoine Fuqua, who directed this film. Just fantastic job all the way around. So that's going to do it for today's new release episode. Later this week, we're going to touch on Mortal Kombat 2, another new release that just came out a few days ago. Super excited about that one. And then we'll continue our Marvel marathon with Black Widow as well. So we got a couple episodes coming out this week. And a bunch more stuff coming later on in the year. So very excited about all the content getting released to you guys. Check out all the other episodes that I have done so far. Check out the website, like I said, cinematic-reviews.com. Set up a profile. Go ahead and rate Michael, like I did with the popcorn rating on there. Write your own review for everybody to see. Please test your knowledge with some trivia games and check out the episodes on there too. So a lot of stuff for you guys to check out. Super excited about the rest of this year. We're coming up on halfway, at the halfway mark on the year. So remember, when we get to the halfway part of the year, we'll kind of do a cinematic rewards as if it would have ended now, so to speak. So we got a lot of fun stuff to do. I just released on social media too the schedule for Fright Nights 2026. We're going to be doing a found footage season. So VHS, Blair Witch Project, As Above, So Below, and then 2 of the Paranormal Activity movies. Very excited for Fright Nights this year. I'm a huge fan of found footage movies, so I thought, why not do it for this year's Fright Night season? A lot of great stuff coming in. I'll reveal this year's Christmas show as well later on, and probably in August I'll release that. But some other annual things coming up here shortly. So a lot of content coming your way. So check out the show every week and all the other episodes. With that, I'll let you guys go. Have a good rest of your day. Have a good rest of the week. And check out all the other episodes coming out this week as well. Later, everybody.